All right, hello everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the LOCO Podcast. Today, we've got a whole bunch of segments for you. Hope you guys enjoy. This is our first podcast brought to you by Tiger Wave, the Dripping Springs High School Podcast Network. I'm Connor Cook with my co-host,
Logan Moore, and that was a fantastic intro, Connor. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we're going to start off. We're going to start off with the chillaxin chat. So
Well, real quick before we get into that, let's just give them a rundown of what we're going to be talking about today.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Chillaxin chat is going to be how we started off. Just a nice little 10 minutes to get you into the groove, get you into the jive, if you will. That's just some relaxed chatting. I think even today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the DC news that has been coming out.
Of course.
There's been a lot of DC news. Some of you might have noticed that there's been some Batman stuff going on. Maybe Connor might want to talk a little bit about the Suicide Squad game. I don't know how much he knows about that.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
And maybe even some comparisons to the Avengers game. Have a little friendly rivalry. Because for those of you who don't know, I'm a huge Marvel fan.
Connor's I'm a huge DC fan.
So that's interesting. We follow up Chillaxin Chat, State of the Drip, which is local, really just your local news, what's going on in Dripping Springs, wacky stuff, serious stuff, whatever we can find. Followed up by Connor's Conspiracy Corner, because Connor is a kook and he believes in a lot of crazy stuff. So he's going to do his best to convince me of these different theories that he has.
And convinced he will be.
I've got a little segment called Ashes of Alexandria that'll come up later. Just kind of weird history, stuff that you might not know.
Obscure history.
Followed up by some music musings, if you will. It's a little segment about some of the music that we've been listening to, why you might want to check it out. And then we'll wrap things up after that. But without any further ado, what are your thoughts on the What are your thoughts on the Batman trailer?
Oh, we're getting right into it. If you ask me, it looks like Robert Pattinson's dad brought him to the Black Parade, but I don't mind. I think it looks pretty cool. I'm a big Batman DC fan, as you know, and I'm kind of like biased. No matter what, I always be like, yeah, good job, DC, you go. Like, I love Suicide Squad, the movie. Don't at me, okay? I love Batman vs. Superman, okay? That's very controversial, but I love both those movies. Watch them all the time. So, I don't think DC can do any wrong, but if I were to have an unbiased opinion, I would say that it looked pretty rad, pretty gnarly, okay? I mean, he was like, I am vengeance, and he was like beating people up. I was like, that's Batman right there, okay? It was
so I'm not the biggest DC fan, but I have a huge respect for their comic books. I think that they've made some really amazing characters, and admittedly, Marvel has definitely copied some of their characters. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of, well, it goes both ways. There's a lot of cross-pollination with comic books, but, on the Suicide Squad note, that movie was interesting. I liked the style of it. I think that it probably could have been better if it was at a higher maturity rating. I think that they weren't able to show a lot of stuff that would have made it really cool.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, that was a PG-13 movie.
Yeah, well, with the new one, it's called The Suicide Squad. It's going to be a hard R, directed by James Gunn of Guardians of the Galaxy. Thing. Yeah, it's going to be basically that. If you saw Birds of Prey, that was not a hard R, but it was an R. And
I never caught that one.
They really got to show Harley Quinn as at her best, and so hopefully they do that with the Suicide Squad, and there will be a lot of violence because there's a lot of characters, and a lot of them are going to get their heads blown off. So I'm looking forward to that.
Connor, I gotta say, I watched the Batman trailer, and it was, it was a different tone than I'm used to with Batman, and I liked it a lot. He was vicious. You hear the bones break. That's something that you expect from Batman, but at the same time, I'll be interested to see what the tone of the movie is when he's not fighting. I noticed that at the beginning of the trailer, there was a little bit slower of a pace, but it could just be that they want you to have those expectations going in so that you're blown away. Really, we'll have to wait until the movie comes out. But I got excited. That trailer definitely got me excited.
Well, do you know who the bad guy is? Because I know who it is. Do you?
Who is it?
It's Riddler, so that'll be interesting.
Oh,
well, it's
nice.
Riddler. It's Riddler and Penguin, and they've got all the mob families. They got the Falcones, so that'll be really cool. They got the whole mob aspect going on. I'm assuming Riddler will be like a enemy of the mob, and then so it'll be the mob and Batman and Catwoman who's in that versus the Riddler because he's going to be causing all kinds of chaos.
I have a rare opinion that I do like Edward Nygma more than the Joker. and I don't know that a lot of people have that opinion.
I can't share that with you. I mean, I get where you're coming from, but
I think that Edward Nygma can be a complete joke if he's not done correctly. But I think that when he is done correctly, he's like the coolest character ever. Yeah. The Gotham TV show series was one of my favorite representations of the Riddler.
Yeah, I love that.
Because you get to see his slow progression into insanity.
Yeah. It's
just a wonderful transformation. And the Joker has similar aspects, especially in the new movie that came out. But I just love that. That whole mindset's very cool to me.
Yeah, I agree. So we'll be looking forward to that.
Now, on to the games. Have you seen the Suicide Squad trailer for the video game?
Yeah, I have. It looks really good.
And have you seen the Avengers trailer for the video game?
I saw it on TV the other day. I didn't see like a full fleshed out trailer because I don't have a PS4, so I can't even play it. So.
And if you had to compare the two?
Well, yeah, I have the bias, but I prefer the Suicide Squad characters over the Avengers in the first place.
Yeah.
Like, don't come at me, but I feel like having bad guys as good guys is a really cool concept. It's been around for a while, since like the 70s. I think if you do that properly, it'll be really cool. Especially, it's not just Suicide Squad the game; it's Suicide Squad versus the Justice League. Okay, so that'll be really rad. So
yeah, I gotta say I had a complaint about the Avengers game.
The graphics.
The graphics are definitely. You wonder from a studio that produces such amazing looking movies, even though I don't, as an AV tech nerd, I can't, a lot of the cinematography in the first Avengers films were kind of meh, and the colors aren't very cool. They didn't have very good color correction. A lot of it's pretty bland, but at least they had good special effects. That was something you could always say about the Marvel movies. They always had really good special effects.
That's my problem with the movies. They're like mostly animated movies. I mean, that's all anybody will see anymore. Like, there's so many good movies out there, but it's just I want to go see Marvel movies, and I just can't take them for that. I hate them for that. They've ruined movies personally.
I think that a lot can be said for practical effects. They're really good to use. You don't want to always use special effects because you get that like, oh, this isn't real life. This is just an animated thing. Like, I'm just watching characters in front of a green screen. I hope that I don't know if you ever watched the Daredevil TV show on Netflix.
Oh, yeah. I love that, actually.
That show had way more practical special effects. It was, it felt real. It didn't feel like a character in a superhero movie. And I would really like to see a Marvel movie come out with that tone, Yeah.
They're all really too lighthearted, if you ask me. I mean, they're superheroes. It's got to be a little dark.
There are rumors that the next Spider-Man movie, I don't know if you saw Spider-Man Far From Home.
It's going to have Daredevil.
Spoiler, yeah. So spoiler alert, at the end of the movie, J. Jonah Jameson outs Spider-Man as Peter Parker. Now, I'm a big Spider-Man nerd. I know you're not a big Marvel guy, but that movie was fantastic in my opinion. I love Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio, and I'm really excited about the idea of Spider-Man on the run with Daredevil in the next Spider-Man movie, especially if they bring that Daredevil tone to the Spider-Man universe.
Here's what they could do. You make Matt Murdock Peter Parker's lawyer.
Yeah.
And he just defends him instead of them being on the run together, which is...
But that if they're in a movie together, they're going to fight together. There's no way that they don't.
Yeah, obviously. But, that would be a really cool thing to see. I agree. I would actually like that. I like the darker tone of the Netflix shows, so...
Yeah, I just thought I'd bring that up because, Marvel does so many different things, and that actually ties back into my original point. My problem with the video game was that I don't understand why it looks so bad if they can do so many different things. Like, it doesn't need to look that bad. Yeah. Another problem was that Hulk was like moving like this slow tank. That's not what Hulk is. The thing that makes Hulk cool is that he can jump from building to building. If he's just lumbering around like some idiot, then why do I want to play as him? So there were a couple things that are a little alarming with that release footage, but I don't know.
We shall see, as with most of these things.
Yeah, definitely.
We now welcome you to the state of the drip.
Let's see. We're going to start off with, what do I want to choose from? Football season. Now, this is a controversial one if you ask me, okay? We're in Texas, right? Friday Night Lights, y'all, that kind of thing. And I really don't approve of them bringing back football season, but it's happening. That's your news. Football season is coming back. And that means there's going to be cheerleaders too, all that. So who knows how many kids are putting at risk. But that's your
Connor,
news. Football season is coming back.
Does it say anything in the article, do you know, about social distancing or any kind of What do you know if they're taking any forms of precautions with opening football, or are they really just doing it like they would? Because I find that hard to believe. I don't.
Oh, well, I mean, they're taking the precautions. Like, I think it's going to be like normal sports where they don't have anybody in the stands,
Okay.
I'd assume.
But the players are playing against each other, and that's where you're concerned, is that possibly these players playing together are exposing themselves, especially because you're heavily breathing, you're spitting.
It's a contact sport.
Definitely.
So
I see where you're coming with that.
I'm a little concerned for my fellow students, but I
don't even think that's that controversial of an opinion, because you're not saying we shouldn't do it. You're just saying you're concerned because you can see where this could go wrong. And I think I think most people that have a logical mindset could see that it could go wrong. But
maybe we'll find out.
Hopefully, kids are tested before they play. Hopefully, I think if the right precautions are taken, it could go just fine. But yeah, they need to be aware of that for sure.
Definitely. All right, next news.
Yeah, I'll move on to I guess the most serious news that we have, and we don't want to make light of this at all. There was a vehicle pursuit and an officer-involved shooting in our own hometown.
Not my hometown, but yeah.
What's your hometown, Connor?
From Houston. Let's go.
Okay.
You live
here.
Gang.
This is where your home is right now. Nathan Harrington was 43 years old, and he led the sheriff's office deputies on a vehicle pursuit through Wimberley that ended in Dripping Springs. So it ended in a shooting, but all of his injuries were sustained from a vehicle accident that occurred during the chase. He had in the past had multiple felony drug arrests, evading, and weapon arrests. So this was clearly somebody who was already a known entity in the area.
Interesting story.
Yeah, why don't you, switching to some good news, why don't you lead us through how our school is getting computers out to people?
All right. So essentially, it's a short article, but essentially, last week, our Dripping Springs Independent School District checked out about 2,000 devices, Chromebooks and iPads for students to use during the school year. So good job to them, because now those in need have what they need to get a suitable education this year in these trying times. So this time I think they did something good. So yeah.
Well, it's really is a good thing. My dad works in telecommunications. I'm aware of how many students don't actually. I think it would surprise a lot of kids how many students don't have access to reliable internet or even a computer that could run Zoom. So many kids have computers that can barely even run the internet. And in times like these, it's, those kids are kind of left out when even those of us with the proper technology struggle with technology issues with school. I'm sure that there's just about no one that's listening to this that hasn't had some kind of problem.
So we got two more news from me. We got, first of all, Austin Java, a local Dripping Springs restaurant, has closed 3 locations, sadly. I really like their chocolate chip pancakes, so that is sad. But due to the
Great
COVID...
Insight, Connor. Great insight.
Oh, thanks.
Great insight. No, it is, I don't want to make light of it at all. It is actually really sad. I ate there a lot. I knew kids that worked there. It's sad to see a place that's been here for a while closed down.
Just yesterday, I think, or 2 days ago now, it was Monday, yeah. This Dripping Springs School Board decided to let kids go back to school on September 14th, which is in about 2 weeks-ish, 3 weeks.
And just to be clear, that's an optional go back, right?
Yeah,
it's
optional.
Not forcing anyone. It's an optional attendance.
Yeah. So what are you going to
do? I haven't decided yet. I'm not particularly worried for my own health. Being an 18-year-old male, I'm convinced I would be okay if I caught this disease, but I have grandparents. I have people that I see regularly that I don't want to expose. Even I know people even our age that I hang out with that are more susceptible to this disease than I am. So I want to be cautious. At the same time, there's a lot of stuff going on at school that I want to be a part of.
Yeah,
we got a new AV Tech building with a lot of cool stuff that we really want to get in there and use. And I really haven't decided what I want to do. I don't know.
I'm probably gonna stay at home. I love my grandparents. Don't want to get them sick, so.
I think a lot of it will depend on maybe I go back, and if kids aren't doing what they need to do to social distance and be careful, then I probably won't stay. I don't know what kind of stance the school has taken on masks. I'm not really aware of that. I know at the moment, I went to the school a few days ago, and I had to wear a mask to get into the building. I hope that they carry that policy forward. I think that they will. And if that's the case, then hopefully it won't be too much of an issue with kids doing that.
Agreed.
Because of course, it's not difficult to wear a mask. To everybody that does not want to wear a mask, let's just be clear that it's not going to hurt you. They're not sucking your... I'm speaking as somebody that understands the process of the respiratory system. You're not going to get hurt. You're not going to get hurt. The only reason not to wear it is that you don't want to wear it. And that's not an acceptable reason when you're putting other people's lives at risk. It's not only yourself that you're risking. If you're going out in public, there are other people around you, and you should be considerate of that. It's basic human decency.
Go off. That was great. Now let's move on to some more lighthearted news. Monkey news.
Okay, let's get off of that train.
Monkey news. Who doesn't like monkey news?
A lot of you probably saw this. My mom sent this to me weeks ago. I'm sorry that this is a little bit of old news, but my mom sent this to me, and then 2 days later, TMZ picked it up. That's how big of a story it was, guys. I'm telling you, this is the real deal. Jesse James owns monkeys. That's the first part of this story. Jesse James owns monkeys locally. Second part of the story is that his monkeys got loose locally.
Okay,
so now we've got Jesse James's monkeys running around Dripping Springs, Texas. Let this settle in for a second. This is amazing, guys. I'm a big monkey fan. I think that Connor's a big monkey fan. I
love monkeys. They're great.
I care more about the monkey than Jesse James, frankly. And this monkey shows up on the doorstep of one of our own neighbors in Dripping Springs. Now, this lady wakes up in the middle of the night and goes downstairs, and she hears scratching on her door. There's just this monkey sitting here. And I don't want to show the footage because it's a little graphic, actually. This monkey was looking for a mate. And yeah, it was about that time for this monkey. He was ready to go and ready to get going. And he hung out in this house. They got some video of it. And like I said, it picked up traction on TMZ, even posting an article about the whole ordeal. So Dripping Springs finally gets some recognition nationwide. So that's really great news. I really wanted to end with that because who can't appreciate a local monkey?
Trying to mate, running around, knocking on doors.
It's just the way that it is.
Hey man, the grind don't stop.
So that's going to close out our State of the Drip for this week. Hopefully we can come back next week with some more news for you. But that's what's going on in your hometown.
In your neck of the woods.
Unless you're Connor.
Yeah, not my hometown. Time for my favorite segment, the Conspiracy Corner. As Logan said.
Just to be clear, we're a broadcast journalism class. I want to make a little disclaimer. I will do my best to disprove everything that he brings up because we are a broadcast journalism class. We want to be fair and ethical. So it is my job to rip apart these theories. I'm not trying to be mean, but I have to find any hole that I can find. Take it away, Connor.
And I will not listen to you, and you will not destroy what I believe. I want to get a few disclaimers out of the way first, okay? I personally am a big fan of conspiracy theories and aliens, yada, yada, that kind of thing, all right? I think that humans are the byproduct of, whatever creatures were here and aliens. I think they made it, they could have been Sasquatches. They could have just been really
extraterrestrial intervention. You're claiming that there was extraterrestrial intervention.
I think monkeys and aliens mated or something similar. It didn't have to be a monkey. Some kind of human-esque being. Anywho.
Now, don't you think that it's more likely that they wouldn't necessarily mate with us, but that they might just experiment on us? If they can get to Earth, they're pretty advanced. They're probably not just going to mate with the first creature that they find.
If you look at the Epic of Gilgamesh, it talks about hairy beings like a beast-like creature, and then these gods coming down and mating with them, and then boom, you get a new creature. Now, this can be seen throughout multiple cultures, and I can't see that as just a coincidence. But that's not my theory for the day, so let's not get into that. Let's not get into that.
Demigods, like Greek demigods.
Yeah, they were seen as demigods, essentially, because the gods were the aliens that came down, and they were like, oh, yo, you're part god, you're a demigod. It was seen like that. Yeah, you're right.
But I'm just trying to bring up, that's another one of those examples, like you mentioned, of where you can find that throughout history, of the gods mating with humans and bringing about creatures that are more divine than normal Homo sapiens.
Yeah, and that has to do with my theory today, my conspiracy today. It's not
Take
much
it away,
more
Connor.
All right, so today we're talking about mummies and pyramids and their so-called connections to the gods. Okay?
I like it. I'm a big fan of the pyramids.
Yeah.
I think that they're great.
Now,
they look awesome. I give props to whoever built them.
Now, I think most people are aware of the theory that like the three pyramids, you got like they're like connecting to like three stars.
Are these the Great Pyramids for those of us that are uninformed?
I'm going to focus mainly on the pyramids of Egypt, which are just massive tombs, but I'll also focus on other tombs throughout the world.
Now, is a pyramid of, is that like Giza? Or I'm speaking as somebody who has no geographical knowledge of Egypt. There's
three pyramids. I don't know their names. Okay. It's the three pyramids, okay? The main three, that people love.
The Great Pyramids, I believe, are what you're talking about.
Great Pyramids, yes, those three. The Holy Trinity, you could say. Anywho, so here's the summary of what I'm going to focus on today. Basically, it is said that, you know how Egypt is really, their culture is strange? They have like all these gods and stuff. They got the sun god Ra, who's a big part of this, comes down from the sky.
So can I put you on record as saying that the Egyptian religion is strange?
No, I'm not saying that. Okay, then I sound racist, okay? It's unique compared to a lot of other cultures, okay?
Unique.
You've got bird people, you got wolf people. It's like furries are their gods, okay? It's an interesting thing. Now, today I'm focusing on how the pyramids are like giant signals to the gods. God. When I say gods, I mean aliens, okay? Or spacemen, whatever you want to call them. I sound like a kook if I just say aliens, but whatever, man.
Well, let's clarify. When we speak of these religions, Connor's taking it as these are stories that have been warped over time, and that they originally were referring to extraterrestrials who were viewed as gods. But in today's
they didn't know they were extraterrestrials. They thought they were just gods.
In today's scientific worlds, we would think of them more as advanced extraterrestrials than literal gods.
Well, actually, modern science is so biased that they don't even look at this at all. They're just like, oh, it's just a coincidence that there happen to be these similarities across a bunch of cultures across the world. But like I said,
so let me intervene because I keep up on this stuff, actually, despite the fact that I'm supposed to be disproving you. I'm actually very interested in all this. And it's true that the scientific community has largely ignored some of the weird stuff about Egypt. In fact, there was water erosion that was found on the Sphinx that dated back to 10,000 BCE, which was, I believe, 4,000 years before they thought that it was built originally. For years, the scientific community wanted to ignore this evidence, say, oh, it's just a coincidence, oh, it was probably there long before the Sphinx was ever put there. And then they finally proved a couple years ago that the Sphinx was built thousands of years before they thought civilization existed in Egypt in that form.
Wow.
So you're right. The scientific community has been proven to be somewhat resistant to the new evidence that's being provided out of that part of the world.
Exactly. Thank you for that. Now, let's get into the theories, okay? Or the theory. Excuse me. It's basically that the pyramids are giant signals to aliens when they come back, because it was always reported that the gods would come back someday. Now they haven't. I kind of hope they do, but for now the gods have not come back. And so the pyramids are just giant tombs for these mummies. Everybody knows about mummies, right? Take out your brains, you wrap people up, all that good stuff. But this is said to be like a sign of not so much as going into a second afterlife, but preparing to be brought back to life by the gods when they come back. Now, they haven't come back, like I said, so who knows? But I've got some facts right here to share with you. that'll hopefully back this up that, like I said, the mummies are just waiting to be reborn by the gods when they come back. So let's get into it. Like I said, pyramids are beacons to aliens when they return. So I'm going to get into the timeline of the pyramids, okay? It's 2,600,000 blocks, which would take 250,000 days, aka 664 years to make normally, okay? That's a lot of years. Now, it's said that the pyramids were built during the time span of many different kings. It focuses mainly on, I believe, pyramids were built during the Khufu time. King Khufu, they were associated with him.
Yes, I'm familiar with that name.
Okay. So now, pyramids took way longer than a normal lifetime to build, so it would have spanned across multiple pharaohs. So, but it's mostly associated with him. King Surid built the pyramids according to the manuscript that is at Oxford. This was 300 years before the Great Flood. You were talking about the Sphinx having like water markings. I don't know if that has anything to do with the Great Flood or not.
No. Remind me what time frame you're talking about here?
Time period? I'm talking about multiple time periods.
26th century BC.
All right. So picture yourself. We're in 26th century BC.
So let me just provide some context real quick. King Khufu's reign, 2600 BC. Now, the water erosion on the Sphinx that I was referring to, 10,000 BC. So 8,000 years before King Khufu started building the
Well, that
pyramid.
could just been there was water on the earth, and then, it...
No. They've proven that the Sphinx was built before 10,000 BC.
That's
Let
really
that
early.
sink in for a second. 8,000 years prior, there was a civilization that was advanced enough to build the Sphinx.
So you're helping my point out, essentially, okay?
I'm
in a
not
way
necessarily helping your point. I'm just pointing out that there's mysteries to Egypt that science has not been able to put away. I'm not saying that you're right. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying I'm providing some context that there is mystery to all of the stuff going on.
Yeah.
I can't, but it would be wrong of me to try to say that proves your point. I don't think it does prove your point. But.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. Egypt is in the desert, right? There's very little wood besides like palm trees, okay, which they had to use for other materials. To create something like the Sphinx or the pyramids, they would have had to use like rollers and wood, and they didn't have the resources for that, okay? And what kind of civilization is so advanced so early on in the age of civilization, or just like who is advanced enough that early on in life to make the Sphinx or the Great Pyramids? I mean, people have tried to recreate those today, and they're still not as successful as building the replica of the pyramids or the Sphinx, as well as it was previously built. So, I mean, it's just like kind of who helped them out and who put the idea of a rebirth into their heads. Like, I mean, that just doesn't really come out of nowhere. I mean, I get if you're trying to explain an afterlife, you might think, oh, well, maybe I just wrap myself up or something, or maybe it was gods.
Do you think that though? Do you, if you don't know anything about anything, do you really just go to, I should wrap myself up in toilet paper and sit in this tomb for 1 trillion years? Is that really what you would think?
Exactly.
Like,
okay.
It doesn't make a ton of sense to me.
Exactly. Who put this idea in their heads?
But Connor, I think we should probably wrap this segment up.
Okay. Can I give you the math real quick?
Give me the math.
All right. So essentially, well, like I said, who gave them these ideas? But yeah, blah blah blah. There is the height of the pyramids times 1,000 million is 98 million, which equals the distance from the Earth to the Sun. Okay. Coincidence? I think not.
Wait. Repeat that one.
Height of the pyramids times 1,000 million is 98 million, which equals the distance from the Earth to the Sun. Okay. Following here? The meridian running through the pyramids divides continents and oceans into 2 equal halves, and the area of the base of the pyramids divided by 2 times the height is 3.149. Does that number sound familiar to you?
Yeah.
What is it?
Pi.
Are these all just coincidences? How could such an early civilization be this advanced? Okay, like how? My scientist brain says that just because it doesn't make sense, you can't go to a conspiracy. I agree with you.
it doesn't make sense.
They're coincidences. It's not just, I mean, it's like, how does this even happen? Okay, how could there be this many coincidences? It's insane. Listen to this, okay?
But might there be a more reasonable explanation than aliens?
What, that they were just smart? They were just really into math that early on?
I don't know.
Okay, one more thing. In 1963 at the University of Oklahoma, they found the skin cells of an Egyptian princess. I believe her name was Mene, M-E-N-E. They were found to be capable of living, okay? And she was mummified, all of that, but she was still found to be capable of living, which means that maybe they were onto something about being reborn.
Explain this?
The skin cells of an Egyptian princess in 1963 were found to be capable of living.
So they were like, these mummified skin cells were still alive. She wasn't still alive, but her skin cells could replicate?
Yes.
Wow.
So,
and do they know if that had to do with like the mummification, the mummification make process? It so living cells could stay living, or?
Well, this is just one example of a mummy. I don't know about the rest of the mummies. I don't think they've tested all of them. But there's also like cryogenics. They froze dogs for a week and then they brought them back. They melted them, thawed them, and then boom, the dogs are back and happy. So there's a lot of examples of, you got cryogenics, you got the skin cells of alive, you got the coincidences of the pyramids being so mathematically correct. It's all a little conspicuous, if you ask me.
That it is. Okay.
So what do you think? Let's wrap it up. What do you think about this?
I think you present some very interesting points. I agree with you in certain instances that science has failed to properly explain some of this stuff. That doesn't mean that I can agree with your theories. It means that it's unsolved. I can't jump to conclusions because I'm supposed to be the logical one. But I agree with you that science has failed to prove some of these things. And I hope that science one day can, because I'm a big believer in science. So,
is that at least something that interests you, the whole mummies being part of an alien rebirth?
It is intriguing. It should interest everybody. It's mystery. What's more intriguing than mystery?
The mystery of life.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, definitely. Thank you for listening to Conspiracy Corner.
We're going to skip Ashes of Alexandria because we've really... That one was like 30 minutes, I think.
Music Musings.
What's an album, Connor? What have you been listening to?
So, can I give you just context as like this? If I start off with my favorite album this week, which changed my life and made me the man I am today, I'm just going to, it'll explain my entire music taste for the rest of the year, okay?
Okay.
This album is the 2003 Ambitious. Drum roll, please. Thank you. Ambitious album by Blink-182. Their untitled album from 2003, as I said, okay?
Untitled.
Anywho, this album, it was it changed my life, okay? This personally, the song I Miss You on there is what really got to me. It was a late night one time. I believe I was a sophomore. Couldn't sleep. I turned on my little radio. Yeah, I had a radio back then. I heard I Miss You on the radio, you know. Where are you? And I'm so sorry. You know that? You heard that?
No, I'm not familiar.
You haven't? Okay, well, I was just like, wow, this is great. And then I ended up exploring that. And then from Blink-182, I got into punk rock, which really gave me an identity. I found myself. It's a great community. You're allowed to be yourself, and you're allowed to be proud of yourself and not conform to societal norm, okay, as I like to say. And I think it's just a really great community to be a part of, and this album introduced me to that, and I couldn't be more grateful for it. And Blink-182 is now my favorite band, and it's a great album from top to bottom. Definitely listen to it.
Blink-182, unnamed album. That's Connor's pick for this week. My pick for this week is a little different. It's a band that most of you probably have not heard of. They're out of my... I'm going to say it again, my home state of Indiana, actually. I hail from the great north.
Ew, damn Yankee.
Yeah. Indiana's kind of lame. I can say that as somebody who's come from there. There's not a lot going on for it. You want to go to Chicago? You got to go one state over. You want to go to Ohio? It's a different state. You want to, everywhere you want to go is right outside of Indiana, basically. Mm-hmm. Indianapolis is okay. It's kind of dirty. It's not very cool. But we have some good universities. Indiana State University, Purdue. These are like really prestigious schools. And one of those schools happened to produce a band called the Main Squeeze. Now, the Main Squeeze. I
love that.
You like the Main Squeeze?
No, I like the name. I've never heard of them, but I like the name. The Main Squeeze
is one of the best bands, modern bands that I've heard in my lifetime. I'm a rock guy. I've been unimpressed with modern rock mostly. I just don't know what they're trying to say, really. A lot of the time it's like, okay, yeah, I get it, but like, what are you actually trying to do with your music? The Main Squeeze blends a lot of elements. They do funk and hard rock, and it's the most inventive music that I've heard in a long time. Their guitar player is the closest thing I've heard to a modern day Jimmy Page ever. He's a fantastic guitar player.
That's high praise.
Well, and I play guitar. I know what it takes, and it's very, very inventive stuff. I keep using the word inventive. It's not like it's the hardest thing you're ever going to hear, but the way that he uses the notes are so artistic and so purposeful. And that's really what matters when you're playing guitar. You don't have to play fast. Even though it is kind of fast, it's not a necessity. You don't have to play hard. You have to play what you mean to say. You have to say something with your guitar. And he's amazing at creating those sentences out of music. So that's we'll put the album pictures up on the screen while we're talking about it. Yeah. And you guys want to go check it out, you totally should.
I just want to add one thing, which is that you and I are both musicians. And
self-proclaimed musicians.
I mean, one would argue that what I make is good or bad, but that's not the point. The point is that we understand music, you could say, okay? So this is coming from the mouth of babes themselves, okay? So
I'm not going to go that far. I like music a lot. It's a hobby of mine, and I hope that you guys appreciate my opinion. You don't have to respect it.
Agreed. People would say that Blink-182 is not punk rock. They say it's pop punk, but I think music in general has to change over time for it to be relevant and for it to be innovative. And I think a lot of the bands that we listen to have done that. So
absolutely. Well, that's what you have to do if you want to be a band that
survives.
Gets remembered. You can't. Yeah. I'm gonna catch some flack for saying this, but I don't like Kiss. I'm not a Kiss. I'm not a Kiss fan.
I disagree.
I'm not a Kiss fan because I think that other than their showmanship, they had cool concerts, cool pyrotechnics. I don't think that they changed music. I think that they came in and they found a niche that worked for them, which is fine. I'm not saying that you have to do that, but I don't think that they're a band that like has that Led Zeppelin kind of like, we changed music and you're going to remember us forever kind of thing.
I actually agree with that, but I mean, like, they didn't really change over time, but their music is still pretty good. Like Strutter.
Personally, I'm not a huge fan of it, but
do you know Strutter at least, the Kiss song?
I don't know.
That you gotta listen to that at least. Okay,
I'll check it out.
Fire stuff, man.
Let's wrap it up. Thanks for coming on, Connor. Thanks for coming to my show, Connor.
Hey, whoa! This is our show. Nobody get
on the show.
No, I will be here every week.
Generosity.
Let me get something out of the way. LOCO is Logan plus Connor. Okay.
With your limited schedule, it was really nice of you to make time to get on here. So
I don't appreciate this. Are you kicking me out already?
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. This was your first LOCO podcast. It was a little rough. Hopefully, we'll do it better next time. Thanks, Connor, for your help on State of the Drip, Conspiracy Corner, and Music Musings. Next time, we will go through Ashes of Alexandria, which we did not get to this time due to time constraints. And hopefully, we'll have a little bit more polished of a show for you. Connor, I'll see you next week. Thank you, buddy.
See you next week. Thank you.
All right. Have a good one, everybody.